I think it's free.
I think it's free.
Ah, the drinks are free.
Yeah.
Okay, good news from Michael. The drinks are free.
Tweet away.
Right, 4 rum and cokes on the stage, please. So, thank you for that clarification, Michael Paul. So, right, like I said, we've got about 45 minutes or so, and instead of having to listen to me ask lots of questions, this is like a question time. It's an open debate, so all you need to do if you want to quiz our panel is put your hand up, and hopefully you'll have caught my eye and I will come over to you, or indeed you might need to come up to here because the lead is not that long. So, oh Michael, what do you want?
Not free.
Sorry guys, I'll be really quick. Just see, with the drinks, what you have to do is you have to tweet with the hashtag Blogstock. And the account, yeah, I'm sorting it, and the account Appleton Run UK, but it's not. You'll get a cocktail, which so is that what was explained? Yeah. I was just very clearly told that was what was not explained.
Come on, Michael, get off.
That's fine.
Oh, paper bag. Bless him, he hasn't been to sleep yet. Okay, so just a quick show of hands, because I don't really have much sense of the makeup of this festival at all. So, bloggers, put your hands up, please. People from the PR industry. Work directly for a brand. Okay, so we reckon about 2/3 bloggers. Thank you, Jill. Okay, so future of blogging, lots of subjects to cover. Like I said, put your hand up if you want to quiz our panel. And that leads me, obviously, to introduce our panel. So from your left, we have Jill Lloyd, and she's from Expedia. Expedia have been in that VIP area over there, and they're doing some things this evening, which Michael will tell you about after I finished. Next to Jill is Arya Alatas. He's from Nufnang. Welcome. Next to Arya is Riri Roquette, the best name of the festival, from Rockalilly, correct? And obviously Paul Dow, who many of you will know, he's from Trav Monkey during the week, and Traverse Events and Blogstock at the weekend. Paul! Yay! It's quite embarrassing, which is great. Right, so this is your panel. Put your hands up. Don't have to listen to me for the next 45 minutes or so, and we'll go ahead. So the future of blogging, guys. So I mean, where do we start? I mean, let's actually, because I know you're nervous, Jill, so we'll start with you. So, and we're not specifically talking about travel blogging here. We're talking about all the different forms of blogging that have been represented over this weekend. So try and be as general as you like, and this goes for all of you on the panel. So it seems generally that blogging has evolved and matured in the way it has relationships with the industry in which it covers. So, with your Expedia hat on, how do you sense that that relationship between bloggers and the industry will evolve over time from now on?
I think one of the things that we're seeing, can everyone hear me? Okay, so I think one of the things that we're seeing is much more almost consolidation. So bloggers starting to work together in collectives and organising themselves to work together on group projects. So rather than, from a brand perspective, rather than working with lots and lots of bloggers individually, there's a much broader trend towards working with one group who will then coordinate a wider group of bloggers and running more of a collective program rather than just individual focuses. I think that's the big thing that we've seen over the last few years, and I think that's probably something that we'll continue to see developing.
Yeah, I mean, just on that, Jill, why do you sense that that has happened?
From a brand perspective, it makes sense for us. It makes it easier to work with bloggers. You don't have to, I mean, there's a lot of admin involved in working with bloggers, so contracts, legal agreements, all of that side of things, it's much easier if you can do that through a collective organisation. Equally, from our perspective, we like to get lots of different perspectives on perhaps one theme. So it's great to have a group of bloggers that can represent all these different perspectives, but coordinated in the same way. And from a brand perspective, you also need that support, that coordination to be doing things all in the same way at one level at least, even if it's a different perspective, different content, but some level of consistency.
Right, okay. And if that's something that is going to evolve over time, and you're talking about collectives, and do you think that's going to need, I know we are going to get onto this maybe later on, but do you say that we are going to need more of an organisational structure around bloggers and blogging?
I think some kind of communal currency, or being able to see some way of comparing bloggers with each other would be useful, but I'm not sure that there's any one metric. So different brands will look for different metrics for different opportunities. So it's not necessarily all going to be about the traffic to your blog or the quality of your followers or the demographic, but it will depend on what you're looking for and what your campaign is about. But some way of knowing, of having more established facts about the background of a blogger or their influence.
Okay, so Paul, let's come to you.
I'll just say kind of, I think a lot of bloggers kind of have knowledge of each other and how good they are and what they bring to a trip. So I think you'll find a lot of bloggers kind of collaborating because they know who can cover what types of skills. Maybe you want to do some video, or someone to do some really good photography or iPhone photography. So bloggers are kind of coming together because they have that knowledge, and it takes time to learn who the key people are, who the good people are at that. And it takes PR companies a long time to figure that out as well. So bloggers have that advantage. So that's why you're seeing some groups coming together as collectives, I think.
Okay, and Riri, on that point, would you be happy to work as a collective, or are you quite individualistic?
Oh, I belong to a blog collective. Oh, well, I'm not collective. I guess I see it more as an agency, but it's the same idea. So I do. I belong. Disclosure. I'm with Handpicked Media, which represent a lot of bloggers, and we get campaigns from big brands through them. Because I can't even begin to imagine how they could be bothered to try and pick a blogger, and then they want 100. So yes, I can see they pay Handpicked, and Handpicked know their blogs inside out and can give the right people the right things, and I get things that I would never get otherwise. So I agree. I wouldn't ever not be with one. So I get interesting opportunities.
And Harry?
Yeah, just to follow on from Yuri, that night actually is sort of a hybrid collective slash agency into the one which Yuri is associated with. So we definitely see that's a trend, but it's also been something which has been building up over a period of time. And not only looking at it from the perspective of within one country, but also multi-country. So it's not just a case of we would like to work with bloggers in the UK, but we want to work with bloggers in the UK and Australia with a unified objective, a unified goal, perhaps, because there are overlapping themes, overlapping interesting content to be created, and the administration and the organization of that is much more easy when you have a collective already in place, whether bloggers self-organizing or having an agency or a community acting on their behalf.
Okay, so you would encourage people, obviously, because that's kind of what you guys do, but this idea of a collective is quite interesting. I mean, let's come to a blogger then. So if we're in this kind of collective, and the collective that you belong to, do you... One of the subjects that's come up quite frequently is that in my old world, which I'm a journalist for 20 years, we had sub-editors and people proofreading our work and things like that. And one of the subjects that came up at the Traverse that I was at in Brighton was this idea of checking each other's work and proofreading and sub-editing and things like that. Does that happen at the moment, or is that something that you would encourage over time because it improves, in inverted commas, the quality, arguably?
Interestingly, no, I haven't heard of that at all. I can see you on your phone, so if you're tweeting, I'm Riri Roquette, by the way. Feel free to say hello to me. I do that when I listen to people. I look like I'm not paying attention. I hope you still are. I've never actually, in the fashion and style and lifestyle industry that I'm part of, never really heard of a collective idea of promoting each other. I think when I'm part of a collective, I don't feel like we're a team. We are still definitely each other's competitors, and there are limited campaigns and there is limited money, and they might pick 5 bloggers out of 50,000. So I'm not sure we're near that. I feel like we're still definitely, the agency is fighting for us, and at events we love each other, but I definitely feel like we are still vying for the same jobs, and therefore I'm not sure how much proofreading I would offer.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I think when one talks about collectives, one may think that that's actually like losing the individuality of each blog, and I think that's a very good point to say that shouldn't happen. But I would say that it very much depends on the type of blogger you are, and quote unquote like what vertical you belong to, because some collectives of certain types of bloggers do pool themselves, and that has positives and it has negatives.
Can I look at one? What's an example that I can go and find? How would I find one?
Well, I mean, in general terms, it tends to happen more with parenting bloggers. But it depends on the sort of the blogging culture of the country in which you're part of. So it's a lot more common, say, in Asian countries where you have bloggers who both compete with each other and collaborate with each other because they're involved in similar campaigns or they go to similar events, but they're very much their own personal person and blog, and they try to distinguish themselves. Everyone has a different unique selling point, but of course you may have overlapping readership, or you may have content which is similar because you're a fashion blogger, luxury fashion blogger, for example. But in other countries, it's just more conducive to being cooperative and sharing information and collaborating in advance. So it very much depends, I think, on the collective. I mean, for example, I would assume that if you were contacted by a brand, you would think of it as, well, perhaps they're contacting other people, but they're contacting me for specific reasons. I don't have to confer with other bloggers to find out what they're doing vis-a-vis this brand. I know what I want to do vis-a-vis that brand. Whereas other bloggers may think, actually, I need to find out what other people are doing before I say yes, before I say no. So I think it very much depends.
Okay, so moving on, the bloggers again, put your hands up. Bloggers, okay. Bloggers that are solely text, i.e. you're mostly writing. How many would consider themselves photo bloggers or video bloggers? So a few more over there and there, sir. So video and photo blogging panel. Paul, over to you first of all. Is it something that is going to evolve naturally? Because, I mean, from what I've been observing, it's been primarily around text and words and storytelling and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's the quality of photos is definitely improving massively. I think a lot of people have basically proved that they've actually bought decent cameras, they've actually learned some skills. There's a lot of bloggers who are not just writing, they're actually learning photography skills or video skills. So you're seeing very image kind of heavy websites as well. So just today I was showing my website from 2007. It was like, there wasn't one image on the page, and it was very like blank. And then from today, there's a massive image right across the page, full size, width, and everything. So you're seeing the trend in a lot of different publications as well, not just blogs, but definitely the quality of images and photography has definitely risen.
Just on that, why has that evolved into images and video and things like that? It's just because the technology is better and it's faster, people have got the skills to do those things, or what?
I think so. Maybe the equipment's cheaper. I'm not quite sure, but you know, obviously you've got higher quality cameras that are cheaper price, especially point and shoot cameras. iPhone photography sometimes use images and blow them up quite large from smartphones. They still look pretty good. So I think that's probably part of it, having a decent smartphone with that technology.
Okay, and pictures are easier to look at than reading words.
Yeah, definitely. And even if you look at Google, for instance, they also look and try and define whether you have quality images on your website or not. If you do, you may rank higher.
Okay, so Jill, were you about to jump in there anyway? I mean, what I was going to ask is that, do you feel that Expedia over time will lean? Because I mean, Expedia's website, for example, is very image heavy now.
Yeah.
So is that a requirement that you ask for people, or is that something that you hope that they will be doing more over time? And you say, well, if you're going to write about it, could you shoot us a 30-second spot of video as well?
Yeah, I think definitely multimedia content is becoming much more important. People's attention spans are getting shorter. They want to look at something and be inspired very quickly. So I think from a travel perspective, a lot of it is about inspirational visuals. Also, it's something that we see varies very much in different countries. So, for instance, we know that for the French users tend to be more focused on images, and for instance, we've looked at a study that sort of Germans are slightly more focused on text and reviews and that sort of things. So there are some cultural differences just in kind of testing that we've done. But I think overall, across the board, visuals are really important, particularly in travel. And I think as it becomes more crawlable and that content can be found better in search, that will also increase the importance of that type of content.
Okay, so Ari, with what you're doing, you're kind of sitting in that place between brands and bloggers. What are some of the more kind of out there ideas in terms of the technology and the media that people are using that you're hearing of, and that, you know, some people might say to you, oh, you know, in about a year's time we would like to be able to do this. I mean, are there any kind of, you know, put your future gazing hat on for a second and tell us some of those kind of bits of technology that people should be looking at?
Well, and I know it's been a very big theme at the festival about you know, visual content, video, and photography, but I think mobile blogging is a very big area which will soon explode. I mean, I recently...
Sorry, just on that, define mobile blogging for us.
So mobile blogging could just be using an app on your smartphone and blogging as you go along your day. You know, so perhaps follows from Paul's earlier talk about live blogging. I mean, I recently read that we spend more time on our smartphone than we do sleeping, right? Yeah. So, and there are mobile blogging apps that exist, like Tumblr has one, Blogger has one, WordPress has one, and, you know, more or less they are deficient in different ways. And I think that increasingly we've been sort of distracted with like sort of short form media on mobile. You know, it's much easier to post something on Instagram with a short caption than to perhaps fully elaborate on the whole experience in a long form post at the end of the day or at the end of the trip. So I think that in terms of new technology, if we have more things at our fingertips where we're able to do things a lot more simultaneously, I think that will just assist everyone in terms of the readers as well. Because we're consuming content on mobile, so why isn't that we shouldn't be producing that content on mobile as well?
Yeah, that was going to be my kind of follow-up question here, is that we're just thinking about us here, but let's think about the readers for a second, so, or the viewers even, if it's video. What is the benefit, and I know there's been a session on this already, but just for those that might have missed it, what is the benefit of doing something in a live format?
For me, it's really, I spoke to some of the ex-media pioneers earlier about it. It's kind of trying to get engagement around what you're doing. So if
in a live situation?
Yeah, so say you go into a particular place and you're doing something particularly interesting, if you can kind of communicate that before you go, and when you go they can follow along, and it's something of interest to them. Maybe they've lived there, or maybe they're going to travel there, or they've travelled there before. You can kind of go there and ask them for recommendations, special tips, unique places, and often they'll get involved because they've got a vested interest in it, and they'll share tips with you and advice. And if you actually go and then go there and show a really good picture of their favourite cafe, for example, then you know they're engaged in that experience, and you can actually gather tips from these people, these local experts, and then you can create that and create some really good content yourself to inspire other travellers to actually go there. Yeah, from a travel perspective, obviously.
Harry, I think also it's about immediacy, right? It's about full disclosure, like we have a sister company that made a mobile app, right? And the way it works is that you have to sort of blog things as you go along during the day. Tomorrow you cannot blog about today. And I think it's playing on this whole idea of immediacy. So as I'm live blogging this festival, I can have readers ask me questions about, is the cocktail I'm drinking actually any good, for example? I suppose to
it's great.
Days
It's
right
good.
now. Is it? I haven't tried it. I'm trying.
Delicious.
It's delicious.
Delicious.
And rather than, you know, in retrospect, how was the festival or how were things and so on and so forth, I can bring them into the experience as much as I possibly can while I'm experiencing it. And I think that's quite interesting, quite engaging. And it perhaps may even also shape my behavior because I'm getting live feedback from readers, from people I may know or may not know.
Yeah, I remember Benji Laniado, who's used to work for The Guardian, was one of the first people that I can remember. Alice was
Yeah,
nodding here.
yeah.
Did like a
live Twitter
live
trips.
travel thing.
Yeah.
Quick trips or something. I
Yeah,
think it was.
you go into a city and every step of the way would be dictated by what his audience was telling him on Twitter.
I mean, he had the advantage of working for the Guardian, so everybody knew who he was already, so rather than somebody else.
Just one quick to add to that. I think it's really key to line that up in advance so that people know what's happening and you're not just surprising them and expecting them to be there and responding to it. So making it almost part of a series or an expectation that on this day I will have some feedback on this, or I'm going to this place at this time. Just making sure that people are aware it's coming.
Right, okay, so I mean, kind of led to it, sorry, hinted at a little bit there. We were saying with Benji, he had the marketing muscle of the Guardian to get his kind of what he was about to do in front of him, so they knew that he was doing. So this kind of brings us to how, and this is for the bloggers now on the panel. I mean, how do you think marketing individual blogs and the distribution of that content is going to change over time? Because it's been in a very kind of static way up until now. You've worked with people, you try and SEO the hell out of things to get into Google. Bad turn of phrase maybe, but you know, those are the techniques that people have had so far. Is that going to be static, or are we going to see the way things are marketed and distributed change?
Well, in the fashion industry, which I feel weird that this weekend I've been a fashion blogger. I don't usually say that about myself, but I suppose I am. It's definitely going over to video. I don't ever want to do video, so I'm in quite an interesting place, and I've been listening. I did go to the blog one, I really enjoyed it. And that's been very interesting, and I think bloggers at the moment in fashion have been slightly shelved for vloggers, and vloggers are the very trendy thing currently, as are Instagrammers who aren't even bloggers, and there are now just famous Instagram people who just completely manage their profile on Instagram and don't do anything else. So linked to that whole image heavy idea that people are lazier maybe, and don't like reading as much and are going much more to the pinning and the tumbling and the Instagramming. And it's interesting to feel where I will go with that as to whether writing will still carry through in that industry, I suppose. But I like to think that I've been blogging for, gosh, 5 or 6 years plus. Before it was even a thing. I came from forums, as I imagine a lot of you did, and us geeks just went from chat rooms to forums to blogs, naturally, I guess. And if we think about just 3 years ago or 2 years ago, how much it's changed, where MySpace was then Facebook, was then Twitter, gosh, maybe we won't even be blogging at all in 2 years, and maybe it'll be something completely different, because back then I couldn't even imagine not having a MySpace. But I'm on it still. It came back. Justin Timberlake, I trust him, but it hasn't worked yet, has it? Justin, save us, come on. So who knows? And I could predict maybe 6 months' time, but God, I'm not naive enough to begin to think I could know what will happen in 6 years. Because
Okay.
How amazing.
Behold, everybody, the world's last MySpace user on stage. Paul, you were going to say something.
I just wanted to see whether these guys had any thoughts on kind of wearables and whether, communicating to people via the watch, for example, or whatever it may be, how that would affect it.
I mean, Google Glass for the travel industry, or for travel blogging, is in some respects just a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Arguably, I don't know.
I mean, it's something, I think it's one of those devices that it's still very early, and we're certainly still experimenting with how it fits into our world, and what kind of content is relevant for people on that device, or what is intrusive and too much. It's finding that balance between information overload and useful content at the right time in the right way. And I think that's the big challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose for a brand like Expedia, having your bloggers going around with Google Glass and documenting everything might be kind of quirky and cool and fun, but is that ultimately going to be inspiring people to book more holidays on Expedia? Question mark. I suspect probably not, because it's going to be jittery and it's cool, and it shows that you're a cutting-edge travel company, but the reality is you want people to buy more trips.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think, you know, too much information is about being selective because people have a relatively short amount of time. They want the right information. They don't necessarily want to know every step of your trip. So refining that content is just as important.
Okay, new marketing channels, area and distribution. How are people going to get their get the word out about their words?
Well, I think it depends on the blogger you ask and the type of content that they have. I mean, some may think that they need to spread themselves as thin as possible, and as soon as something comes out, they need to sort of claim. At the very least, I think you should claim your handle, claim your name. But you don't necessarily have to use that new potential distribution channel. But if you have a brand that you've built up, and that came up in Julie's talk, Lady in London's talk, that I'm sure if there's a new channel that comes that arises, she wants to at least sort of bookmark a Lady in London. But I think one needs to sort of be very selective as well, and choosing the right channel for you. And there will always be a new channel that will arise, whether it's a new social network in which you can drive new readers to your blog. But I think fundamentally you have to know what exactly you want to do. Do you want to create sort of different nodes of influence, or do you want them to actually coalesce in one place and have your blog as that place? And I think you need to be intentional with what you're doing rather than just sort of fall and muddle your way into it. That would be my suggestion. So you either can sort of get onto new distribution channels that arise, or try and just solidify yourself in pre-existing ones by improving your photography, or mingling with other bloggers and so on, or joining a collective, or joining an agency, or whatever it may be, or brand, co-sponsoring something with a brand, and so on and so forth. It very much depends, I think, on what you need and want as an individual.
I know we're looking at the future of blogging, but Paul, just for a second, to kind of be reflective for just a moment, just to kind of highlight how quickly things move along. Can you pinpoint something in the last couple of years that you thought, oh, this is a really good marketing channel for my content, I'm going to throw all my efforts into this, and already it's disappeared and you're thinking about the next thing?
Not one that's disappeared, but I'm kind of interested in maybe Snapchat in a way. Not using it with that kind of technology in terms of something that really captures your attention and has like a limited lifespan. So it's not like Twitter, it's just kind of fading away. It actually, you've only got like 4 seconds to actually read it. It's kind of like your attention is there for 4 seconds, so to speak. So if you are communicating with people, they will actually read it and take notice of it. So I think that kind of communication may be something that may happen in the future, maybe text-based rather than Snapchat, but that kind of stuff I think is important. May have some sort
text-based as well as video and photos and everything.
Probably, yeah.
Right, okay. Right, okay, so we're moving on. We've got about 20 minutes to go, so we're going to go through as many of these as we can. So, particular to travel, but hosted trips, but also product reviews and things like that. What's the kind of the future of those? I mean, hosted trips in travel are, as you know, they didn't just come around because bloggers did. I mean, travel agents have been on familiarisation trips for 20, 30 years. It's not a new concept, but the channels in which people are, as we were talking about, kind of promoting the content and the way they're collaborating with brands and things like that. But the actual physical going on a trip or being given a product to review, is that something that's going to stay as it has for the last 20, 30 years, or is that going to evolve? Paul, you've got a microphone, so you can go first.
I guess you've seen the trend towards kind of bloggers organising themselves, especially in travel, so I think that's just going to increase even more, really, and having those kind of trips that haven't got an itinerary, essentially, and they're a bit more adventurous, and you kind of set there, but you can go and do what you're really interested in and what your niche is in travel. So I don't think that has been in the past. We've seen that already, I think.
Okay, and sorry, Vivian.
I've really noticed in fashion and beauty the difference where freebies aren't enough anymore, and neither are just payment.
You want free?
Yes. Well, now it's really, and even for, I'm talking like high-level journalists in beauty and things, they have to have an experience alongside the freebie. So you don't just get offered some face cream, you get sent the face cream in a mulberry handbag, or you go and get the face. It happens.
I like
it's
that
mental. Or I saw one from a really quite cheap moisturiser, sent a journalist to Ibiza to go and get it. And I think that actually, realistically, is where it's going. I also own a business, and I rent out. I have 2 salons, and the salon was rented by a PR company for journalists for a really cheap £7 face powder. But to get the journalists to even look at it, they had to give them free hair, makeup, and nails, and then take the powder with them. And I think that's a real big trend in my industry, that the item isn't enough anymore, because all bloggers will just say there's a new item. So the blog needs to be interesting because you went somewhere and you could take cool photos of it. And I think that whole experience has had to become more interesting now, because who cares that 100 bloggers got sent some cream and they take it at home? So I think that is good for us, obviously, but interesting in that it has to almost be bigger and better, because that's almost become boring now.
Needy journalists and needy bloggers. Perish the
Love
thoughts
it,
there.
yeah.
Jill, I mean, from Expedia's perspective, are you finding that those that you are hosting, whether they're journalists or bloggers, it doesn't make any difference, but are they more needy, or are they looking for that little bit of extra? As long, you know, you're taking them to Madrid for the weekend, but they want to fly with Ryanair at the same time. Did anyone spot the deliberate joke there?
I think it's an area where we're starting to work a lot more with tourist boards and with airlines, because you need to be able to organise all the different aspects of that, but you need to preserve the flexibility. So as Paul was saying, it's about trips where you can manage your own itinerary, and I think when we're sending people off, we want people to be able to control what they do and to have the experience that they want, because it's very much about their individual experience. And certainly from Expedia's perspective, Expedia is all about being able to book your trip on your terms. So that's what we want to communicate in a blog trip. It wouldn't be a trip where everyone does exactly the same thing. And that's why we're working with a group of bloggers. And again, that comes back to the point about collectives. That's why it makes sense to work with a collective, because then you can organise one trip but with very different perspectives and experiences.
Okay, so we've got about 20 minutes to go. We're going to play a little bit of word association game now. And they all kind of like raised their eyes to the sky when I said we were going to do this, but it's halfway. So, when I say the word, you need to say the first thing that comes into your head. Jill, someone in the corporate communications industry, you need to be really careful here. Do you want us to go off the record just momentarily? Okay, so we're off the record when Jill from Expedia speaks. Right, it's the word association game, and we're going to lead on to one of the answers here in a second, or one of the questions in a second, because it's important. So, Jill, Facebook. Harriet, you need to move the microphone up. Facebook, Harriet. Hey. Okay.
Older.
Older. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Audience.
Okay.
Attention.
Attention. Right. Okay. Back to you, Jill. Back to you, Jill. Blogging associations.
Traverse.
Worth considering.
Yeah.
I ambassador.
And I ambassador. Okay, right, last one. Jill, over to you. PRs.
Agencies.
Took too long.
Come on, man. PRs, but interesting. Now, the PRs in the audience again, put your hands up. You are officially interesting. Hello, 4BGB at the back. Right, okay. So, PRs.
Human too.
Full inbox. Full inbox.
Full inbox. Okay. I didn't quite hear you. I thought it was a euphemism for something. Right, okay. The reason why I said Facebook at the beginning there, and we'll come back to you, Jill, is that, has there been, or there is a sense that there has been a over-reliance on social media for distribution and marketing, for bloggers per se. But Facebook is this, it isn't just a social network anymore. It's a platform. It's a place where many people live, albeit those that are older, according to readers. So statistically, Facebook is full of older readers. I'm 41. I like Facebook anyway. But the point is that. More rum for reading. Okay, so back to you, Jill. Sorry about that interruption there. The role of social media in what bloggers are doing. How is that going to change, if at all? Or indeed, is there an over-reliance on social media for what they do?
I think they're very much interconnected. And I think it's partly the connections between bloggers and their ability to amplify each other through social media. That's one of the attractions of working with bloggers as opposed to, for instance, journalists, because if you work with a blogger, they will be able to retweet each other and engage in the conversation in a way that perhaps a traditional journalist, wouldn't do so in quite the same way. So I think that the two are very much interconnected. How influential their Facebook content would be, or whether it makes more sense to bring that into a central location where the audience is larger, that's another area to look at.
Right, okay, Harriet, to you, please.
Well, the reason why I said paid was because I think there's sort of an evolving discussion about what is the purpose of your Facebook page, or what's the purpose of using Facebook. Yeah. Gone are the days that you felt that if you had 100 likes, that meant every single time you posted something, those 100 people would be, because they liked you, they would be they would see your content. Organic reach has gone down.
Yeah, 98 of those likes are from other bloggers.
Potentially. And then there was also the interesting story recently about they were curating what you were seeing to see what behavioral effects it would have. So I think that Facebook is very, very, it's sort of an evolving thing. And to Riri's point, I don't know if they're going to be able to sort of keep sustaining the first generation of Facebook users. And I was sort of part of that first generation when I was in university, and it's sort of evolving. Is it a messenger communication tool? Is it a customer service channel? Is it a way of coalescing all of your content, bringing it into one place and exhibiting it? So it's different things to different people, and I don't know if they're going to be losing people along the way as a result.
Okay, I'm just interested because for me, I think Twitter is just a lot of noise most of the time. I don't see it as a really important content distribution channel for what we do at T-News, for example. So those are the bloggers in the audience. Put your hands up again. Keep your hand in the air if Twitter is your primary source of traffic to your site. Keep your hand in the air if Twitter is your primary source of traffic. Put your hands back up again. Keep your hand in the air if you just don't care. Keep your hand in the air if Facebook is your primary source of traffic. Right, and last one. Bloggers, put your hands up again. Keep your hand in the air if SEO or Google News is your primary source of traffic. Yeah. Okay, that's just. I just think that's interesting. So we've only got a couple of minutes, so I wanted to get on to the one which is the nitty-gritty, which is because we would like to make money. That's why we get to go on trips, we get to test new beauty products and things like that, but we like to be paid to eat at the end of the day, things like that. So what are some of the emerging revenue streams that bloggers and the blogging community can expect to see or look to capitalize on over time, please? We'll start with you, Ariel.
Well, I would definitely encourage everyone to have seen Julie's presentation, actually. I think that, from our perspective, we're very much at the beginning stage of a blogger's sort of monetization journey. Both in terms of sort of passive income, in terms of display advertising, and active income in terms of sponsored content. But beyond that, it very much is a case of how far and professional and full-time a blogger wants to be with their blog, and whether the blog is just a hobby, a place to exhibit your creativity, a journal of self-expression, whatever you'd like to call it.
But those that, it's not just about self-expression, those that are doing it as a business, they're professional bloggers.
But you know, I don't think you start off necessarily with that intention. I mean, from my experience, those who started off with that intention aren't necessarily the most successful. I think those who start off because they're actually passionate about the content and about the subject matter, and they frequently post. I mean, I've had a lot of false start blogs that I've tried to walk around, and the reason is because it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of energy of honing your craft and building up those skills. Once you've done that, then you can explore ways of consulting, of freelancing, of joining a collective, of learning how to best value your time and your skill set, and how you're differentiated from, say, a fellow fashion blogger, but you also have common interests, so you can sort of work together at the same event or with the same brand and so on. So I think it's sort of, and I think also just thinking about the new technology, to an earlier question that you had, which is that you can monetize not only your blog but the other things that you have associated with it, and you can sort of think strategically as to how they complement each other.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite interested in the becoming consultants in inverted commas. You know, becoming seen as experts and specialists in the field that they blog about. So anyway, Riri, new revenue streams, please.
Again, from my sort of side, I think bloggers are massively, slowly taking journalist jobs from them, which I'm okay about. Things, I think lots of magazines are dying, and a large part of that is because of the rise in blogs. People are still reading, they're reading somewhere differently. So recently, the More magazine for women was dead. But those women are still reading, and they're still finding that information, but they're finding it somewhere else. And I think Company magazine, a few of us have talked about it, Company magazine is one of those ones that has become the bloggers magazine, and it had the first blogger as a cover star. Most of their articles are written by, curated by, styled by bloggers, and I think that is going to continue to grow in all industries, in that we are seen as authentic voices of opinion that hasn't yet been swayed by a horrible industry of sending people to Ibiza to get a face cream. Obviously that won't last forever, but I think that is going to be fascinating to see, that we will all suddenly become those current to the edge voices in all industries, in print and TV.
In a way, it kind of goes in cycles, doesn't it? I mean, I remember World Travel Market a couple of years ago. The travel bloggers here know World Travel Market, unfortunately, very well, I'm sure. There was a pretty well-known blogger was on a session, and he was talking. It was about innovation, and he was saying that, well, on my blog now, I tell people that I can give them advice and I can give them tips of where to go, and if they ask me, I will book the trip for them, and they give me, and I take a little bit of commission, and everyone was like clapping, so, oh, that's really innovative. And I said,
it's a travel.
You're just a travel agent. So it comes in a different kind of name. It comes in a different way, but things go in cycles. Jill.
I think that's exactly it.
I remember it happened at that function.
There's some sort of convergence where bloggers are almost becoming columnists in traditional media as well. So you may have a blogger commenting or having their own sort of column essentially within a mainstream media channel. So it's not something that's entirely new, but to maintain that, you really need that in-depth expertise and to really be a credible reference for whatever topic you're speaking about, because otherwise you are competing with columnists that really do have that expertise.
Okay, so we're coming right up to time. So a classic end of session question. We'll start with you, Paul. I'm hoping that we'll be reconvening here in 2 years' time, or in another desolate field somewhere, and we'll all be happy and we'll all have enjoyed another day, and we'll be having the same debate again. What do you think will be the topics that we will be debating then in 2 years' time?
It was a difficult question. What is the future of blogging? I mean, probably technology changes. I think there's going to be some rapid changes coming up probably as well, with probably wearables, to be honest. I think because it's going to mean more micro format kind of text updates from bloggers, I think, rather than long form pieces.
Okay, Riri, please.
I imagine that everyone will be bored of bloggers and going back to having the idea of in the whole cycle thing. They just want one person who just they believe again, and bloggers will just be noisy, and there'll be too many of us, and everyone will just be sick of trying to pick out who to listen to and almost just go back old school again. And we'll be trying to fight back, and that's what we'll be doing in 2 years.
Okay, show of hands, who agrees with Riri?
Half.
The man at the back. Okay, Harriet, 2 years' time, what would you be saying?
Well, I don't think the future of blogging will be uniform across the world, because already at the current stage we're sort of unevenly developed across the world. So I think that certain regions of the world actually will take up blogging as a journal of sort of self-expression. Like, not to generalize, but in continents like Africa, for example, as there's more tech adoption and there are much less filtered ways of expressing yourself beyond traditional media, I think they will take it up. I think this audience will probably even be more international than it already is in 2 years' time, if that's even possible. And I think that, on a more slightly optimistic note, that even though perhaps fewer people will be taking up blogging as the easiest thing to do, because short form, I think there's so many more options. I think that the sort of the quality, committed bloggers will likely sustain themselves. And I think in a way, instead of having more noise crowding out the signal, you'll actually be able to identify the bloggers that sort of have remained and have consistently sort of invested in being a blogger.
Okay, and Jill, you get the final word.
No, I think just building on Aria's points, I think globalization is going to be a big area. And particularly as images and video become more important, the language issues which create those sort of barriers at present will break down. And that will be an area where we'll start to see a much wider mix of bloggers and different cultural perspectives, and also much more content being shared on a global basis. For organisations like us, it's being able to use content globally has huge advantages, and to coordinate things on a global scale will definitely be an area that we're likely to be looking at in a couple of years.
Okay, thank you. Good session. Can we have a round of applause for Jill, Aria, Riri and Paul? Okay, Michael, hi. Michael's going to come over and say a few words, but I just wanted to say on behalf of everybody else that's here, can we just have a really big round of applause for Michael, Paul and Ruth and the rest of the team for putting on. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed.
Hi, so I'll make this quite quick. Okay, so I'll explain everything that we're doing a little bit later on. With the rest of the evening in a moment. But firstly, just want to say thanks to Kevin, who's done 3 sessions today, all in one day. So we're going to look up 2.5 sessions. And Alison McKenzie. I haven't thought of it. We came up with the idea of Blogstock about 1.5 years ago now, so not too long after starting Traverse in January, and it seemed like a bit of a mission to do it. Now that we've done it, we realised it was a much bigger mission than that. It's been a serious amount of work, but it really, with all the events we've done, because we're a company, we're not a big brand. Myself, Paul, and Ruth, and everybody who works with us, it's all very, very much part-time for us. Sometimes a little bit less part-time, as my work found out. It's not something we can put hours and hours every day into. And it really is down to the people who come along and help. We don't pay for speakers that come down or any of the people who are wearing these shirts or have been for the last couple of days. They're all doing it because they want to come down and help us out, and it makes a really big difference. Now, well, more than that, we actually couldn't do it at all without that. It's everybody does it. 41 speakers or something like that this weekend, 20 people helping us out, as well as us 3. So that's a lot. 60-something people, a lot of people. So yeah, it really is down to that, and obviously all the bloggers that come along and turn up event after event. what's been so nice about this one is to see how many new faces we've had. Myself, Ruth, and Paul have noticed that, as well as Kevin. Actually, when I sent Kevin the attendee list, so he was going to look who was coming, actually sent me an email just a couple of minutes later saying how great it was to see so many new people. People obviously travel quite a long way. I can see Terrell and Cherie just there, who've come all the way from somewhere in America. I'm going to say Denver. I don't know, just somewhere in America. California. Yeah, there you go. Who's travelled the furthest? Anyone come further than California? It's half a mile, that's good. No, I think California's about it, but it's. If Kevin didn't say that, that would have been a lot more impressive if we left it at California. Yeah, so it's obviously, and then again, you know, we always say this. I know every single time anybody puts any kind of event on or does anything that's in any way corporate, they go on about thanking sponsors, and it's really fucking boring when they do that. But it is a really big deal about. Well, no, so it's a really big deal that brands like Expedia, Joe, no, that they do come down and support us, because it's so much more than just lending a name to this, and we don't work with brands who want to just chuck their name out there, because that's easy. You know, one of the things that we love about working with Expedia, it's the third event in a row that we've done this with them, is because they're not about that. You know, you don't look around here and see their branding up everywhere. And trust me, for the amount that they're contributing to this event, they could have done that. You know, they wanted to put signs up, they wanted to call it Expedia Blogstock. They probably could have done that, but it's not. You know, they do this because they want to connect with bloggers, and they want to talk to the people who are attending this and really, you know, get to know the guys that come and connect with the people who are coming here. And then you've got the likes of Kontiki, who I know haven't had that much of a presence in terms of branding here, but have been networking non-stop here, and they provided that fantastic bus to get 50 odd people from Central London on Friday. And I think a lot of you, anybody going back on that? Just so I check in. There you go. So quite a lot of people going
20 minutes ago.
Yeah. that's you know, going back tomorrow. So they put these things on, and Hertz, who have just had absolutely, I think, great first event for us, I guess. I know they've done a lot of them before, but not with us. With those bell tents up there, I can't actually. The Hertz people are actually up there taking down their banners at the moment. But those tents up there, and the small teepee over there that Steve was doing his talks in. So all the brands that come down, and there's loads more on this list that I can't really go through. MailChimp, I've seen a lot of people in hats. You can still see that at the moment. And that Traverse company down there, they're quite good as well. So it really is down to those guys that put it in.
Lonely Planet booklet.
Lonely Planet are great to have on today. Yeah, today, this time. Of course, probably one of the ones. Expedia behind me again. One of the ones we're most excited about having on board, and the booklet they did is brilliant. That photo booth last night was great. And generally having the quality of companies that we have as these people, not just brands that people know in blogging, but brands that every single person knows, supporting it for the very first time. It's something that makes us think that, you know, if people have enjoyed it, if it's worked well, we can do it again next year, and hopefully we will be back in 2015. I don't know what Ruth and Paul are thinking at the moment, but I'm sure we will, and we'll definitely be back with Traverse in 2015 as well. So that's about it in terms of thanks for all this sort of stuff. Yep. In terms of what's happening tonight, Expedia, who are sponsors of this event. Expedia have got their Expedia Pioneers. Now we're going to explain a little bit more about it in the marquee as soon as I've done this. I'm just buying the guys a little bit of time to set up. So as soon as we go in there, we've got loads of lovely wine in there, which Lidl have provided. It's good. Got some lovely wine. It has been great. Anybody who's had any of it last night or in the tent today. So really fantastic drinks going on there. So that's with the Expedia Pioneers. So they're doing this thing where someone can win this amazing job for a year. They're going to explain more about it there. We've got the 12 finalists over here today, and they're all going to come and get introduced you to those guys. Following that, at around about an hour after it starts, I'm not sure exactly what time it is right now, we'll have the Expedia Happy Hour, which is going to be general networking. We've got loads of nice drinks out again, and we're going to do a bit of a pub quiz for that. So get in some teams, get ready for some decent sometimes drink-based prizes, and the rest of the time probably also drinks-based prizes as we do that. And then following that, we're going to have a really good after party. Those of you who have been in Brighton and Newcastle know what kind of thing that is. So I think that's it. I'm looking around at the rest of our team. That is it. So that's it. Make your way over to the marquee when you're ready. Grab a nice glass of wine. Chat with all the Expedia guys. That's it.
Yeah.